It's now time for Talkin' Boxing with Billy C. It began as a podcast, went live on the net, and transformed into a full-blown empire. It's the only daily boxing talk show on the planet, hosted by the only guy with the balls to do it. Many have stepped into the ring. Many have tried to take the belt. And one by one, they've fallen. Another victim of the undisputed heavyweight champion of Boxing Talk Radio. Talkin' Boxing with Billy C is on now.
My style is impetuous, my defense is impregnable, and I'm just ferocious. I want your heart.
We're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening. Whenever you're listening, I hope you're doing okay today. Today's show is being brought to us in part by Sal's Neighborhood Pizzeria and Italian Restaurant located on St. Simon's Island in Georgia. Check out the website, www.salsneighborhoodpizzeria.com, or give my man a call, 912-268-2328, 912-268-2328. Find out why I go all the way to St. Simon's for an authentic Italian meal. Today's show is also being brought to us in part by the Holiday Inn and all their properties. Hey, listen, if you got to travel someplace, make sure you stay at a Holiday Inn. My favorites, Holiday Inn Resorts, and, of course, the Holiday Inn Express. Now, I'll give you a better reason to stay at a Holiday Inn property. I'll get you a discount. That's right, a Billy C discount. Just call our toll-free number, 844-603-0364, 844-603-0364, or just click on the Holiday Inn banner, which is located on BillyCBoxing.com. And finally, today's show is being brought to us in part by my book. Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy of this book right now while you're watching or listening to this very show. Just visit BarnesandNoble.com or Amazon.com. Find out why I'm so adamant about getting Tom Molyneux's story told. Yeah, it's a true story, and everyone should know about this guy. What? You want a signed copy? Just visit the website, BillyCBoxing.com, and click on the book. If you want more than one copy, drop me an email, Billy@TalkinBoxing, TalkinBoxing.com. Coming up a little bit later on the show, I said last week that we will be making an announcement today about the show and the future of the show. So I'll be talking about that a little bit later. First, hey, I got to give props right now to my man Johnston. He kicked off today's show with something I wish everyone did. Gave us a super chat, and my man Johnston says, as I crawl out from under my World Cup rock, it's time to get back into the world of boxing. In the meantime, Billy, can I get a It's Coming Home? You certainly can, Johnston. It's coming home. All right. Appreciate that. Like we have said many, many times, this show does a lot better when we get super chats. So thank you very much, Johnston. Like I said, coming up in a little bit, I'm going to give you guys an update on the future of this show. Some people may be happy, and some people, I can pretty much guess, are going to be sad. But it is what it is. We'll talk about that a little bit later. I also am going to take a look at the heavyweight division. Preparing for today's show, when I was doing the heavyweight roundup, I couldn't help but start thinking about the heavyweight division, and we've been talking so much about Deontay Wilder not fighting Anthony Joshua. And then when you remove AJ and Deontay from the mix, who's left? Well, I'm going to talk about that and about the sanctioning body rankings. I mean, what a joke, man. What a joke. Another thing, we got some fight results we're going to chat about right now. But first, I wanted to mention one thing. The main event that was scheduled for this past weekend's ESPN card featured WBC junior welterweight world champion Jose Ramirez going up against Danny O'Connor, but it did not take place prior to the weigh-in. Actually, in the morning of the weigh-in, Danny O'Connor was rushed to the hospital because he was passed out, dehydration. He was having a hard time making weight, and therefore that fight had been canceled. Joining me right now to get his thoughts, someone who's been very vocal about these 24-hour day weigh-ins. And quite honestly, we haven't seen legitimate, in my opinion, weight classes, at least a night at a fight for some time right now. Joining us is my partner in crime, Sal, Rocky Senecola. Sal, the first thing you said to me this morning when we were talking prior to going live, you said, are we going to talk about this guy not making weight? It was a little more serious than just not making weight. I mean, this was a guy that I think kind of showed us the dangers of what these young fighters are expected to do in order to dry out and make weight. And Danny O'Connor obviously not fighting in the correct weight class. What's your thoughts on the situation?
Bill, my thoughts are this, pal. You know my thoughts. I think they should go for weigh-ins being 1 week before the fight. There you go. You have enough time to recover, enough time to do this. No, what are you kidding me? Forget about it. This is ridiculous. I have stood firm and always believed that same-day weigh-ins are the correct way, the one way, the only way where you're going to get some fighters that will represent the weight class they're fighting in. You know what? If your body's not meant to lose 20, 30 pounds, you shouldn't have to tear it down just to try to sustain a level of competency and professionation. Well, I mean, just being able to physically endure what it tears and the minerals and the electrolytes and everything else that you're depleting out of your body to make a weight class, so 24 hours later you can replenish and come back a monster or a giant. My last fight, when I fought before I retired the last time, whoa, that's funny. Followed a bouncing girl, but followed a bouncing ball. I'm still in my middle cup of my first cup of coffee. I fought Louis Lamelli on the Vinny Pazienza Greg Haugen undercard. It was a co-feature out in Atlantic City Convention Center back February 6, 1988. And we had the weigh-ins the day before the fight. And Louis Lamelli was a big guy. If you look at him, he looks like a middleweight maybe, and we were fighting at 135 lightweight. And he came into that ring. I would be very surprised if he was not close to 160 pounds, 155 pounds. And no excuse, no reason. But the bottom line is, yeah, that's what the day before weigh-ins can do. And it doesn't really represent the true weight class at 160 pounds, 180 pounds, or 130 pounds. You got, that's why I'm a big proponent of the same day weigh-ins. A 5-pound and 8-pound weight difference is a lot better than a 20 or a 30 or a 15-pound weight difference. And this guy tearing himself down, trying to make weight, and now in a hospital because his kidneys shut down. From what I heard, other things are happening. You want to talk about detrimental and not being healthy? And the whole thing that the feel-good police were coming out to do to try and save boxing or to make it safer and less dangerous, well, let's cut the 15 rounds down to 12 rounds. Okay, we'll do that because people get knocked out or die in the 13th round and on. Forget about it. Or let's try and do this. Let's get the bigger gloves. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's not make people dry out 24 hours before they got to step on a scale and make weight. the day of the fight. Let's let them do twice as much depleting of their body and have them do it the day before the fight. Forget about it, guys. These feel-good police have ruined the sport as we knew it.
You know, you mentioned electrolytes, and I couldn't help. I don't know if you remember. You remember that commercial? Hey, where are the auto lights? It was a spark plug commercial.
Yeah, I do. I remember that.
The guy lifts the hood and the spark plugs. Hey, where are the auto lights? Hey, like they were dancing around. But anyway, on a serious note, you know, what is happening is that because of the 24-hour weigh-in, and, you know, I don't need any of these yahoos to send me an email. Well, Billy, see, no reason why they do it is, you know, listen, I know why they do it. And the reason why they do it is because some fighters can dry out better than others, and they're looking to get an advantage. And I think at this stage of the game, it's like you said, it's detrimental to the health of the fighter. And if people, you know, these hypocrites, Sal, saying that they want to look out for the safety of the fighters and everything else, they really don't. I mean, one of the reasons they changed the weigh-in was because if somebody couldn't make weight, the networks wanted 24 hours to try to find a suitable replacement, just like they did in this fight.
You are so right. You know, Thank you for being honest.
And listen, that's really the truth. Because if they had the same day weigh-in and this fight was all ready to go live, and all of a sudden one of the fighters can't fight, now all the money invested, the setup, the production, all of these things are already in place. Then they're like, whoops. So they try to cater to that. So please don't act like, not you, but the powers that be, don't act like you care about the fighters, because you really don't. But nonetheless, hey, by the way, we're doing a commercial-free show today. Commercial-free show. So anyway, the fights that did take place in the main event was Egidijus Kavaluskas.
Let me try that.
Okay, yeah, please.
I think you got it. Kavaluskas.
And
Kavalauskas, maybe. Kavalauskas. I'll go with that.
Kavaluskas and Juan Carlos Abreu moved into the main event, and Kavaluskas improved to 20-0 with 16 knockouts, despite being cut over not one but both his eyes. Won a unanimous decision. Abreu drops to 21 wins, 4 losses, and a draw, with 19 of his wins coming by knockout. The way the judges saw it, 2 of them had it 97-93. The third had it 1 round closer, 96-94. Also on that card, Andy Vences improved to 21 wins and no losses with a draw when he beat Frank D'Alba, who drops to 22-4 with a couple of draws, 99-91 twice, 98-92. And in the heavyweight division, one of the reasons that's got me going with the heavyweights today, former top-ranked Andy Ruiz Jr., who's looking pretty good these days physically-wise. I really was on Andy's case when he was basically looked like the Michelin Man. He improved to 31-1, his only loss coming at the hands of Joseph Parker, when he won a unanimous decision over the tough Kevin Johnson, who drops to 32-10 with a draw. Kevin Johnson is winding down his career, 38 years old. This is a guy that just wants to be an opponent at this point, make some money. The way the judges scored it, 97-93 twice, and 99-91 were the way that the judges scored that one. Some other fights that took place over the weekend, Bebot Shumanov improved to 18-2 and got his old title back, despite being off for not 1 but 2 years 2 years was a layoff, 1 year was a retirement, and he regained his WBA regular. Sal, can you believe that the WBA actually has the gall to refer to one of their world titles as just the regular world title? It's such a joke. It's such a joke. And when I take a deeper look at the WBA in a little while, it's pretty obvious. But nonetheless, they let Bebot Shumanov take on Hisni Altukia for their vacant regular world cruiserweight title. And Bebot Shumanov took it. He won it via 9th round stoppage. in Kazakhstan over the weekend. Another fight that took place, Harold Calderon improved to 17-0 with 10 knockouts when he beat John David Martinez in their fight. And the way the judges scored at 99-91, and two of them had it 100-90. And down from the land down under, super featherweight champion Nort Bechamp improved to 17-2 when he won a decision over Joel Bruckner, 99-91, 96-94, and then 93-97. One judge scored it for Joel Bruckner to give Bechamp the split decision win. How does a fight get scored like that, Sal? 99-91, 96-94. So the one judge had it close. The other judge didn't. But then the third judge looks at it as 97-93, not close for the other guy. It makes no sense to me. How do you score a fight that has such wide margins like that?
It's remarkable. I don't know. I was going to ask Adeline Bird, but it just I know it's all subject to opinion. There's some rules, regulations, barometers that they utilize and things, but I just don't understand. I really don't understand. It should be consistent within a few points anyway. A little bit of a margin of error, but it should work.
I just don't understand how they can be. I could see one judge scoring at 96-94 for one guy and then another one scoring at 96-94 for the other. That's close. It's within reason. But anyway, heavyweight roundup on Saturday. Well, let's start off. There was a late result. On Sunday in the UK, Naylor Ball improved to 5-0 when he won a 4-round decision over Frederick Zalek, who drops to 21 wins, 70 losses, and 6 draws. People look at a record like that, and you say, oh, man, what's he allowed to fight? Well, that's why a lot of these European fighters are more talented, because they get to fight. I mean, here's Naylor Ball is a guy that was in his 5th professional fight. Yes, Zalek had 70 losses or 69 going into the fight, but that's still almost 100 professional fights under his belt, fighting against a guy that's 5-0. Now, I wouldn't, or was 4-0. Now, I wouldn't want to see a guy with a 21-70 record going up against a guy with a 40-0 record. That's not a challenging fight, but a young fighter to fight a guy that's got some ring savvy, even though if he looks for a comfortable place to go to sleep a lot. I mean, the truth of the matter is it's a lot different over there. Anyway, that took place on Sunday. On Saturday, in Corpus Christi, Texas, Juan Garza improved to 2-0 when he knocked out Alan Nelson, who was making his pro debut in the first round of a scheduled 4. Obviously, Nelson drops to 0-1. Ernest Reyna improved to 9-5 when he knocked out Larry King in the first round of a scheduled 4-round fight. Larry Knight, not Larry King. Larry Knight drops to Larry. We've all heard of Larry King.
Well, don't unite somebody.
United King, yeah. Well, even that was kind of, you felt. Have another sip. Have another sip of coffee.
Let's go.
Larry Knight drops to 1 win, 15 losses, and a draw. Now Friday, it was a busy fight schedule in Australia. On Friday in New South Wales, Australia, Willis Meehan improved to 6-0 when he stopped Jonas Kafka in the second of a scheduled 8 round. Kafka drops to 3-1. Danny Rio, he improved to 3 wins, 2 losses, and a draw when he stopped Wade Hatch in the first round of a scheduled 4-round fight. Hatch drops to 1-3. And Ben Fatikla improved to 5-4 when he won a 4-round majority decision over Stuart Stokes, who almost got his first win. He's now 0-6. Now, in Victoria, Australia, at the Melbourne Pavilion, they had a night of heavyweights. Shane Munford, making his pro debut a successful one, improved to 1-0 when he knocked out Kyle Brumby in the third of a scheduled 4-round fight. Brumby drops to 5 wins, 14 losses, and 3 draws. Then they put on an 8-man tournament where they fought 3 rounds per fight, all in the same night. And I love these tournaments, Sal. Brett Jeffrey in the first quarterfinal improved to 3-0 when he stopped Filippo Fonte Masso in the second of their scheduled 3-round fights. Masso drops to 3-14. In the second quarterfinal, Faiga Oplu improved to 6-0 when he stopped Thomas Pito in the first round of a scheduled 3-round fight. Pito drops to 2-7. In the final quarterfinal, Kiki Toa Lutuli improved to 2-0 with a draw when he stopped Casper Turner in the second of the third of the 3-round scheduled fight. Turner dropped to 1-1. Then it set us up for the semifinals. Christian Nazi Tasui improved to 2-0 when he won a 3-round split decision over Faiga Oplu, who drops to 6-1. Tasui apparently got the drew the bye in that first round. In the second semifinal fight, Kiki Toi Latui improved to 3-0 with a draw when he stopped Brett Jeffrey in the second round of a scheduled 3-round fight. And Jeffrey loses for the first time in his career. He drops to 3-1, which set up the final, Sal. Kiki Toa Latui, he improved to 4-0 with a draw when he won a 3-round unanimous decision over Christian Nazi Tasui, who drops to, sounds like I'm talking about some dishes at a Chinese restaurant. No,
I don't even want to go. But you're doing a good job.
Yeah, well, I'm making it sound like I'm saying them right. Anyway,
no, you are.
Absolutely. He drops him to 2-1, and then finally on Friday, at the Hard Rock Casino in Florida, Ivan Daicho improved to 7-0 when he knocked out Maurice Harris in the first round of a scheduled 8. Maurice drops to 26 wins, 22 losses, and 3 draws, which got me thinking, Sal.
Okay.
Which is a dangerous thing, but it got me thinking because,
right.
A good fight coming up is Joseph Parker, who just recently lost his first fight of his career and his WBO world title at the hands of Anthony Joshua. And he will be taking on Dillian Whyte, who's ranked number 1 in the world for WBC. These two guys are fighting at the end of this month, and I like this fight. I think it's an evenly matched fight. And I started thinking, Sal, are there any other meaningful heavyweight fights? And I could think of a few. One is the guy who won this previous weekend, Andy Ruiz Jr., who actually fought Joseph Parker for the vacant WBO title, and that's his only loss. I think a fight with him and Jarrell Baby Miller would be a good fight, Sal. These are two guys that need to beat each other. Instead of having the way the system works today, where you have a guy like Jarrell Baby Miller fighting literally cupcakes and stiffs, and he's earned himself a top ranking in some of the sanctioning bodies. Why not weed out contenders from pretenders and have him fight Andy Ruiz Jr.? What are they so scared of? What's your thoughts on Jarrell Baby Miller against Andy Ruiz Jr.?
I think that's a great fight. You sure you don't want to get a side job as a matchmaker? That's a perfect fight. I think it'll be a great fight to put these two combatants together, and let's see who wins. Ruiz Jr., I'll pick that one. But I'll tell you what, we'll see. We'll see. I think that's a perfect match, and I think it'll be an exciting fight.
For the record, I am a licensed matchmaker. But anyway.
I know you are. That's why I said a little tongue-in-cheek, I
like the fight. And I think they both, even though they're both on the chubby side, Andy Ruiz has made an effort to slim down. They both throw a lot of punches. They both can box. I think it would be a very evenly matched fight. Another fight that popped into my head. We last week we talked about the possibility of Deontay Wilder fighting Tyson Fury. Well, how about Tyson Fury against Luis Ortiz? How about that fight? What's your thoughts on that?
I think that's a great fight. I think for Tyson Fury, that's the quick route and the obvious fight before he faces either a Deontay Wilder or an Anthony Joshua, which Anthony Joshua would be more likely. But I think that a Tyson Fury versus Andy Ruiz should be a really good fight.
You know, every time fighters are talking and calling people out, the one guy that nobody seems to call out is Luis Ortiz. Deontay Wilder had a knockout, drag-out, exciting fight against Luis Ortiz. Came out on top, knocking out Ortiz for his first loss of his career and the first time he was ever stopped. You know, and I think that Luis Ortiz, even though he's probably in his late 50s by now, I think that he's still a dangerous fighter. And Tyson Fury against Luis Ortiz, I think, would make a good fight. Well, wait, there's more. Because how about Deontay Wilder? We haven't heard anything from Deontay Wilder. We know that Anthony Joshua is set to fight Alexander Povetkin in September. And then he's set again to fight in April. But how about Deontay Wilder, instead of fighting Dominic Breazeale, how about him take on Cuba Pulov, the same guy that Jarrell Baby Miller punked out of and the chicken shit that he is, wouldn't fight him. How about Deontay Wilder fighting Pulev? Now, I think that that's a winnable fight for Deontay Wilder, but at least it's against a guy that has earned a shot at a top heavyweight. And I like that fight. Well, what's your thoughts on Deontay Wilder against Pulov?
I think it's a decent fight. It's a good fight, but you know, if I show signs of apathy, it's because I really was set on seeing Deontay Wilder fight Anthony Joshua.
Well, that's not happening. It's not happening. So Deontay has to fight somebody.
Guess what? Right now, it may never happen.
You're right.
Because we don't know what the future of the next two fights for each of these guys may be.
Well, my point is, who else can Wilder fight that could generate some money for him? I think Pulov could generate some money, especially if Deontay, was man enough to go over to Bulgaria, where he could make a ton of money. Listen, Deontay's.
So? What do you think he can make over there? $5 million?
Yes, I think he could make $5 million, and
that's more than he's ever fought for up to now.
Twice as much, and he doesn't have the financial backing here. And quite honestly, who can he fight here in the States that he's going to make more than he made against Luis Ortiz? I don't think he's going to generate $2.5 million against Dominic Breazeale. You know, Deontay Wilder has to fight somebody, Sal, and you know, if he fights a slug, he's going to be criticized. If he fights Breazeale, at least Dominic Breazeale, according to the WBC, is ranked number 2. Dillian Whyte was the guy that Deontay Wilder should have fought, but he refused to fight the guy. Dominic Breazeale is number 2. But how about I got another? I think he could make good money fighting Pulov in Bulgaria. But how about if there's still time? How about if Deontay Wilder, since Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker are fighting at the end of this month, how about Deontay Wilder fighting the winner of that fight sometime in the fall, okay? And then the winner of that fight fights the winner of Anthony Joshua and Povetkin in April, because they already have the date set. I mean, how about that? Or I got a better shot for your boy. Yeah, there's
You're
more.
on a roll.
Yeah, I am on a roll. There's more. How about your boy Deontay Wilder, who's a fraud in my opinion? How about he go and fight? Right, my opinion. I said that. How about he go and fight the WBA's regular heavyweight champion, Manuel Char? Then he'll be able to pound his chest and say he's got 2 belts, and he should have no trouble with Manuel Char. What's your thoughts on him fighting the winner of Dillian Whyte, Joseph Parker, or punking out like he normally does and goes after a guy like Manuel Char? What's your thoughts on your idol Deontay Wilder?
I think Parker that opponent would be a better one to select than Char. And I think eventually they could fight for the Grand Supreme World Championship belt. That'd be great.
Yeah, and they get and besides the belt, they give you an ice cream cone too afterwards,
or a pizza.
But or a pizza. But the point I'm making about your boy is the fact that he hasn't really fought anybody, and it's time for him to fight a real opponent since he's not fighting Anthony Joshua. Joshua's fighting a real opponent in Povetkin. It's a real opponent. It's not the fight we want to see, but it's a real opponent. Now, the pressure's on Deontay Wilder and his team to actually fight a real opponent. And I just named a couple, but let's take a look at the heavyweight division right now. The way the sanctioning bodies have them rated, ranked.
Okay.
The WBC, obviously, your boy is the champion, Deontay Wilder. The number 1 guy is Dillian Whyte. The number 2 guy is Dominic Breazeale. The number 3 guy is Alexander Povetkin. The number 4 guy is Luis Ortiz. The number 5 guy, which I'm a little shocked that he's this high, is Tony Bellew. And by the way, Tony Bellew had 2 heavyweight fights, both against David Haye. So the WBC catapults him to number 5, which he's 1 shot over number 6, which is Joseph Parker, which should clearly be above Tony Bellew. Number 7 is Charles Martin. Number 8 is the tough Adam Konowski. Number 9 is the young German fighter Ejit Kabel. Number 10 is the just tough guy, Derek Chisora. 11 is Huey Fury. Number 12 is Oscar Rivas, who, by the way, the computer ranks him at number 40. All right, this is why these sanctioning body rankings are such a crock of baloney. Oscar Rivas, no disrespect to him, he's an exciting young up-and-coming fighter. WBC has him at number 12, but when you break it down via the computer, number 40. That's quite a discrepancy. Carlos Takam is number 13. Bermain Stavern still in the rankings for the
he's in the mix still.
He's number 14, and the computer has him at number 29. Okay, and then Andy Ruiz is at number 15 for the WBC. Now, when we look at the biggest joke of all the sanctioning bodies, the WBA, and I'm not just saying this, I can back it up. Wait till you hear these, Sal. Obviously, the WBA, the super champion is Anthony Joshua. Their regular old world heavyweight champion is Manuel Char. This is listen. In all due respect, this is a good opponent for Deontay because Deontay can pick up this regular belt and become a mandatory. You see, if Deontay really...
I don't follow the regular belt issue. I mean, this... Go on, Bill. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt.
No, listen, neither do I. But my point is, if they were trying... If somebody was trying to move Deontay the right way from a business perspective, this is a bargaining chip. I would have went full bore and tried to negotiate a fight with Manuel Char. And the reason is Deontay Wilder should have no problems with Manuel Char. And then he gets to become a mandatory for Anthony Joshua. At some point, Anthony Joshua's fighting his mandatory next, but he would become some point. But he would also gain some leverage because he would have more than 1 belt. Anyway, Manuel Char, by the way, who's the WBA's regular heavyweight champion, is ranked number 31 by the computer, and he's a champion. Alexander Povetkin is ranked number 1 in the WBA. Check this one out, Sal. Frezequendo is ranked number 2 by the WBA. Now, he's not even rated on the computer, but you want to know why?
Why?
I was going to ask why. He hasn't fought in 3 years, Sal. 3 years? Frezequendo is 40-something years old, has not fought a fight in 3 years, and the WBA has the balls to rank him at number 2. Jarrell Miller's ranked at number 3. how Jarrell Miller gets in. The only legit sanctioning body, in my opinion, right now, the WBC does not have Jarrell Miller ranked, which he shouldn't be. But Jarrell Miller's ranked number 3. Pulov is number 4. Trevor Bryan is ranked at number 5. He hasn't fought in over a year. How about number 6, BJ Flores? When was the last time he fought? To even justify a number 6 ranking, he hasn't fought in over a year. He's not even ranked by the computer. And I want to know who he fought as a heavyweight that justifies him to be catapulted to number 6. Dillian Whyte is all the way at number 7 for the WBA, behind BJ Flores and Frezequendo, by the way. Guillermo Jones, number 8. This was a cruiserweight champion. He's not rated because he hasn't fought in over a year. And I want to know, when was his last fight? He's number 8. Number 9, Christian Hammer. Number 10 is Alexander Ustinov, not rated by the computer. Number 11, Otto Whalen. Number 12, Bogdan Dinu. He's not rated by the computer. Number 13 is Bryant Jennings. He's rated number 30 by the computer. Johan Duhaupas is their number 14 guy. He's ranked at number 25 by the computer. And Kaitaro Fujimoto is ranked number 15. The computer sees him at number 43, Sal. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, the WBA is a complete joke. Anybody that puts any value on this sanctioning body is a clown. And just to go through the rest, the IBF, Anthony Joshua's the champ. And I always wonder, why don't they put a guy, why do they go through the hassle of saying that they don't have a number 1 rated guy? All right? It's a joke. It's a joke. They have no one ranked at number 1. Okay? Kubrat Pulev, number 2. Jarrell Miller, number 3. Another sanctioning body that puts a guy who they reward him with a top 10 ranking for a guy that's never fought anybody close to a top 10 fighter. Alexander Povetkin's number 4. Huey Fury's number 5. Carlos Takam, number 6. Joseph Parker, all the way at number 7. Ajit Cabello is number 8. Otto Whalen, number 9. Erkan Tepper is 10. Alexander Demenchenko, number 11. Tom Schwartz, number 12. Adam Kownacki, number 13. Bogdan Dinu, number 14. Charles Martin, number 15. And the WBO, Povetkin, number 1. Dillian Whyte, number 2. And I still don't understand how Jarrell Miller gets in here. But Jarrell Miller's number 3. Dominic Brazil, number 4. Tom Schwartz, number 5. Joseph Parker, number 6. Kaitaro Fujimoto, number 7. Jennings, number 8. Ajit Cabello, number 9. Zili Zhang, number 10. Jean-Pierre Austin, number 11. Tyrone Spong, number 12. Christian Hammer, 13. Oliver Whalen is number 14. And Ebenezer Tita is number 15. It's kind of funny to see these sanctioning body rankings, Sal. And we always wonder, so-and-so's fighting who as a mandatory? Well, this is why. These ranking systems are so corrupt and inaccurate. What's your thoughts?
You know, it is very disheartening to see how come there's so much between the sanctioning bodies that they can differ, and so much that they can do to validate the rankings of some fighters. And we used to joke in the 80s and 90s, the WBA, the acronym or initials, what they stood for, and you know where I'm going with this, with Bob's approval. And that was the inside joke of the fighters, with Bob's approval. But the WBA is really just, I don't know where they're going or where they really feel they have to be and why they do what they do to rank certain fighters a certain way. But I just wish that these sanctioning bodies, even though they keep trying to control their segment of the game, I wish they would also be on the same page when it came to ranking and recognizing, what the true numbers and stats and everything else are about, so they can have a solid basis, a foundation to have a uniform ranking position here. It just blows my mind.
It's
a different world today, a different world, a different game, and what I loved always about boxing was you had a combatant sport that started with the most simplest rules and regulations and equipment, and basically it was just a man, his heart, his conditioning, his desire to win, and his ability. And you throw on and throw into the mix all the other stuff that the outsiders want to do to convolute and to disguise and to reinvent the wheel, and it's hard to see. It's hard to see, and it comes down to greed, to need, to everything else. So you and I were talking about this the other day. The casual fan, or sometimes the fan, they're being sold a bill of goods by people that are just marketing for their own end, and not really giving the fans the true sport as it was years ago, and to really see how it evolved. It became, and always has been, a business, but it's become a bigger business for a multitude of reasons, with a lot of hands and a lot of pots taking a lot of money. And the purist fan has really been misled and down a path that they believe what the media says and spews out. It's a vicious cycle, Bill. I don't know. It's just a shame.
It is, and it's sad, really. And what bothers me is the fact that there's so many fans that buy into it. Just for the record here, the computer ranking, and I looked at BoxRec, they don't have a champion. They have AJ number 1, Deontay number 2. And by the way, they do it by a point system, Sal. And Anthony Joshua is just about 300 points higher than Deontay Wilder. Their number 3 guy is Tyson Fury, who's only 50 points behind Deontay. So I don't understand that. Alexander Povetkin's number 4. See, this is my point. Anthony Joshua fighting Alexander Povetkin is a legitimate matchup between, two good fighters. They have Tony Bellew, number 5, and shocking, Jarrell Miller at number 6, Luis Ortiz at 7, Dillian Whyte at 8, Joseph Parker number 9. I mean, I don't know how Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker are behind Jarrell Miller and Tony Bellew. Dominic Brazil number 10, Adam Koznacki number 11, Christian Hammond number 12, Charles Martin number 13, Tomaz Adamak number 14, and Marco Captain Huck at number 15. Some of the other fighters that were ranked, I will mention where they stand. Dimitrenko is 16, Ruiz is 17, Takam is 18, Huey Fury is 19, Ajit Cabello is 20, Jung Long Zhang is 21, Derek Chisora 22, Otto Whalen number 23, Tom Schwartz number 24, Erkan Tepper is number 28, Bermain Stavern is 29, Bryant Jennings is 30, Char, the regular old champion, he's number 31, Oscar Rivas is 40, Zili Zhang is number 42, and Kotaro Fujimoto is number 43. So that's the way the computer sees it. So it's very disheartening, in my opinion, Sal.
Oh yeah.
For the division that drives the sport, at least if some of these guys, and we can't criticize a lack of talent in any generation, but at least if they fought each other and climbed their way up, wouldn't that be better than what we got?
Oh well, that's the way it should be, Bill. To make private concessions for in the name of money and it's just a shame, because like I said, this was a very basic sport that you fought to win. You kept climbing the ladder, And when you were on top of the ladder, you fought for a championship against the champion. And if you got beat, well, you're down a couple of rungs of the ladder. And everybody behind you and above you is trying to strive to be the best, to get up to the top, to get a title shot, and become a champion. And I mean, that's simple math. That's simple common sense. That's simple striving for perfection, excellence, winning, whatever you want to call it. And we are not that easily reminded of how the winning game of the sport should go, because it's got all these little concessions here and there, sidesteps, politics, everything else. But you should have the best fighting the best, proving that they are the ones deserving to be the world champion. That's all.
I have an email here I want to read because it's kind of along the lines here. It's from my man Rick. He says, "Hey, Billy C and Sal, I actually feel a fight between Tyson Fury with either Deontay Wilder or AJ needs to be made as soon as possible. Not because I think it would be a good fight, but because Tyson Fury is still the linear heavyweight champion." Billy, I've heard you mention the linear title before. I may be wrong, but it kind of sounded like you dismissed that particular title. This was a surprise to me, as the linear title is really the only title I recognize. This is Rick. He says, especially in the heavyweight division, when it can be traced back to so many legendary fighters. Did I misunderstand you about your thoughts on the linear belt? And do you agree with me that that neither AJ or Wilder can really solidify their place in history without knocking off Fury at some point? Rick, I do agree with you. But you did not hear me incorrectly. First of all, yes, Tyson Fury has the linear belt, and just like Muhammad Ali way back when he was put in exile, a lot of people did not consider him, not the champion. When he and Joe Frazier fought, that was actually in a lot of people's minds for the legitimate heavyweight title. And you could go back either further than that, when my man Jack Johnson became the heavyweight champion. The linear title actually belonged to James Jeffries, and until Jack Johnson had to destroy James Jeffries, many people wouldn't recognize him as the champion too. The reason why I've lost a lot of credit and it's hard to follow is once the belt really broke up and started heading off into as many different directions as the fireworks display that I witnessed the other day. It was hard to really justify who the champ was. I mean, you could say this guy was the linear champ, etc. But I think the icing on the cake for me was, now remember something. The linear championship kind of became what the ring belt was. Now, the linear title was prior to the Ring magazine, okay? John L. Sullivan, being the first champion in the gloved era, was around prior to the Ring belt. But the Police Gazette was the one that recognized that. But when Nate Fleischer and the Ring belt came, they were kind of in the linear title move. When Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy bought the Ring magazine, a lot of the credibility for the history of the Ring and its champions, in my opinion, kind of went down the tubes. Not from that point previous, but from that point forward. And as much as I want to see Tyson Fury fight one of those champs, I think it's very hard to see and follow the linear champ, especially when these sanctioning bodies go out of their way to break it up. And quite honestly, to have a regular champion and a super champion, I don't know. It would be great to have the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy, etc., and that all fights had to be fought inside the ring. But with today's attitude of ducking this guy and only fighting that guy because he's easier and I can make more money, it kind of really ruins the whole premise of the linear title. What's your thoughts on this, Sal?
I concur with you. It's diluted enough, and to have the clarity of being what it is. Fight for the title, fight for a championship, have the best fight the best, and it just is, very frustrating for me to follow the bouncing ball when it's not being consistent across the board. That's all.
I just, Rick, I appreciate your email, and
Hey,
what?
and and it is also, I understand what he's saying about Tyson Fury and the linear champion, all this stuff. But if the guy stayed retired, or if the guy, I mean, he's gotta work his. He can be a linear champion, but he's gotta, work his way and earn, after being idle for so long. And I think even though he could be recognized as a linear champion, he still has to, do something, either defend the title or just make his way back to earn a shot at Tyson, at Anthony Joshua or Deontay Wilder.
Sal, it was announced over the weekend that Manny Pacquiao challenging Lucas Matisse for his WBA regular junior. His regular junior.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually I'm wrong. I thought it was it's a welterweight. It's the WBA's regular welterweight championship. The champion is Lucas Matisse, and Manny Pacquiao is challenging for that. It was announced over the weekend that this fight will only be available on ESPN Plus, which is ESPN's new streaming platform. It's got me. The sport has got me down. The fans have got me down. A lot of, not our fans, not the fans that watch and listen to this show, because quite honestly, the most knowledgeable boxing fans that I've come across, and I don't know if we've just kind of attracted the fan that knows what they're talking about. I mean, occasionally we'll get some people that don't, but it just seems that the fan base is divided. They either love their guy and everyone else is a bum, or if people don't agree with them, they hate they hate you. They'll talk smack about you or whatever. My thoughts on this platform was no one recognizes the future and technology more than myself. My background has been in this. This. I've talked about this many times, and I'm not against streaming at all. As a matter of fact, I think it's the future 100%. But to force the fans today, where we are today, where streaming is not the norm, a lot of people are cutting the cable cord, so to speak, and getting away from the satellite opportunities, and they're going with streaming, which I'm totally supportive of. But it's not the norm, meaning the majority of the boxing fans aren't in the streaming world yet. So to force them to watch a fight of this magnitude, and I said this when Terrence Crawford fought for Jeff Horn for his title. In a sense, the greed factor is taken over again, and I'm extremely opposed to it, Sal. And the same thing, the rumor with Eddie Hearn and DAZN, possibly being the only option for us to watch Anthony Joshua fight in September. Triple G and Canelo, at least they already are on pay-per-view through HBO. What's your thoughts on the powers that be in the sport of boxing basically forcing the boxing fan to ante up once again?
Well, you said two things: forcing and only option. It's a shame. They should market a couple different options here to see which people do. Most common thing is people will move along the line of or path of least resistance. So when you constantly throw something out there to have the pathway cluttered or having to dodge this one, that one, and go around, you make it harder. Then the fans will say, hey, we can only take so much. So, I think they should give you some options. If they want to try and experiment and try to utilize and try to market something, let's see. Why don't you let the fans come around on their own terms? So instead of giving it just your terms, the industry or the backing, let the fan have an option. Let him come around and come full circle and realize what's happening on his own terms. I don't know. It's a shame, Bill. It really is. It is.
Well, the thing is that when you're trying to, especially in Terrence Crawford's case, I mean,
I know we talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, you want as many sets of eyes as you can, and I'm what I would have done is I would have offered the stream at a discounted price.
Yeah,
and get people hooked on it that way. Then do the conversion. I mean, it's like selling one of your famous pizzas for $5, get everybody addicted to it, then triple the price, and they're still going to buy it. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. And Manny Pacquiao, we're going to talk more about this tomorrow, but Manny Pacquiao very well could be on his last legs, as he sunk this low, where he's going to be on a stream, and no discredit to ESPN. And I got news for you. A lot of people that watched that ESPN Plus Terrence Crawford fight said it was choppy and very terrible, that the stream was terrible, and they'll blame your own internet service. But that's the other part of it. You can't expect to sell a streaming service and then when people complain about it, blame it on their provider. Because in order to be successful with any kind of streaming service, you have to be able to run on the oldest, crappiest setup. Because you can't expect people to not only purchase your streaming subscription, but then they have to upgrade their whole setup in order to get it. You can't expect that. That's not the way traditionally the technology works. It's always the best will drop down to the lowest, to work, so it will work, but you can't go from the lowest to the best. In other words, you can't have the lowest and get the best service with the lowest, but the streaming service should still work in an acceptable way on the lowest. You know what I'm saying?
No, you lost me on one bouncing ball. No, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna introduce a new section, a new streaming service, you want everybody
do it at a discount. You do it that's palatable to the fans, and you let them engage on their level there. Because we're going to try it. I'm going to try it.
For an example, Sal, today, if you have a cable company providing your internet service, they offer you the base internet service. Then they'll offer you like a turbo or super speed or whatever they call it. And then, an exceptional speed. They'll give you 3 options. And then anything higher than that, like what we use here, is what they refer to as a business class, where you can actually tell them the speed you want and they charge you accordingly. And that's why our fees are so high every month. But when you're selling a streaming service, it has to be able to function on that low end service. Is my point. You can't expect all of your potential users to be forced to upgrade their internet service so that they can purchase your stream. That doesn't work. That even limits your sets of eyes even more. That's my point.
It's true. It's true, and I think you make a good point and a valid point. And that's what you do when you market something, especially something new. You want everybody you want to be inclusive. You don't want to eliminate anybody. You want the numbers. And, you do it at a rate that's palatable, that people feel they can do, and because people are going to make that decision, something that's doable and meaningful for them. And then if you see the need to then show them a true price or what would be more on a level of gain for the company, then they do it, and people still have the option, But at least you offer it to them at a discounted rate.
To continue
to get the masses.
To continue with just Manny Pacquiao right now, as of today, he's a 2-1 favorite to beat Matisse. I'm not so sure that that's really the case. I think that's a 50-50 fight. I mean, Matisse is a tough guy. Pacquiao's not the same Pacquiao. If he tries to fight the same way, I mean, and the other thing is, he's not that you and I both feel the same way about Freddie Roach, but Freddie Roach isn't in his corner. He is fighting in Malaysia. He's used to that. He'll have a big fan following. Matisse isn't. He's there already. He's been there for over a week, getting used to the time and difference and, of course, the weather. But I'm not so sure. Manny Pacquiao had a lot of other issues going on with the finances for this fight. Paying Matisse's already gotten a boatload of cash in his hands before the bell even rang. So I'm not so sure that going to ESPN Plus was a smart move. I do believe Top Rank is handling that. They're the ones with the deal with ESPN, but regular ESPN should have gotten the this fight. If I were Manny Pacquiao, I would have wanted to make sure that I was on as many sets that I was available to as many sets of eyes as possible, especially for a fight that could mean so much to him in the future. Sal,
I agree with you, and I think that it is going to be a good fight. I think Matisse, you can't just count on him to roll over. I mean, this is going to be a good fight for Manny. I still question why, but I think that it should be a competitive fight, and hopefully we'll be able to preview it and see it in a good fashion. We'll see what happens.
I've been promising everybody an announcement about the show, and I guess it's time to spill the beans, Sal. I've been doing this show for 15 years, and we've evolved. We started out as a once-a-week show. We went to a daily format. Then we went to a 2-hour, a daily 1 hour, once a week 1 hour, once a week 2 hour, then a daily 1 hour, then a daily 2 hour. We switched around. We were on mornings, we were on nights, and we've been doing this for a long time. We have a great staff. Obviously Sal and myself, and then my man Dax is a big part of this show, as well as Alex Perpali and Larry Hazard, and really all the people that help behind the scenes. Johnston doing some UK correspondence, even my man F.A., Mr. Apples, who's a moderator in our chat room over on YouTube. We are on TV, we're on radio, podcast, on demand, internet streaming, and of course YouTube. There's been a lot of changes with the sport that I guess I'm having a hard time with. A lot of it has to do with the fan base, the younger fan base, and their inability to take the time to do a little research on the history of this sport, or they come out and they start saying their guy. It really started for me, Sal, with Floyd Mayweather, and Floyd Mayweather's, and not Floyd. I'm not going to bash Floyd, but the fan base that he attracted, and during the same time when Floyd was at the top of his game, so was Manny Pacquiao, so was Triple G, and those three names. If you mentioned Manny Pacquiao or Triple G to a Floyd Mayweather fan, they would immediately discredit them. They're bums. Floyd doesn't even have to fight them because he knows he can beat them, blah, 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 and they would justify it. And with all due respect, a lot of the Manny Pacquiao fans were the same way about Floyd. You mentioned Floyd to Manny Pacquiao fans, and they didn't want to hear about it. And what I started to realize is that it was the fans, and the fans' inability to know what the big picture is. The other thing is that social media, as good as it is for this sport, is the culprit. You have a guy, recently a lot of talks were going on between Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua. Again, The Deontay Wilder fans hate the Anthony Joshua fans. The Anthony Joshua fans hate the Deontay Wilder fans. You know, what this sport needs is unity, not division. We have too much division. We've been talking about the sanctioning bodies and the laughable rankings that they have. And the fact that they won't put a guy in one ranking if he's wearing a belt from another sanctioning body. All of a sudden, he's added a picture. We talked about this last week. Manny Pacquiao was a long-time ranked fighter for the WBO. He's fighting this weekend for a WBA title. Poof. He disappears from the WBO rankings. You know, I mean, you got to have more of a reason to remove a fighter out of your rankings other than because he's fighting for another belt. I mean, it's ridiculous. And several years back, we had several debates about the amount of titles that there were. And there were a lot of young fans that like a lot of titles. They felt that it was better for the fighters, that they were able to make more money, that they, you know, it was good. And I laugh because there's no definitive champion when there's multiple titles. You know, we talk about, you know, the fighters of today marinating a fight. The younger fans, and I keep saying younger, but a majority of the fans like the marination process. Why? We don't need it, you know? Anyway, Sal and I have discussed in detail about this, and beginning tomorrow will be our last show. We will be doing a show tomorrow. We will not be back until, well, now, we will be back to do our post-fight shows. This is going to be on a trial basis. We will return for I was going to do one for the Manny Pacquiao-Matisse fight on Saturday, but I don't want to because they're forcing everyone to watch it on the stream. So we're going to wait till August 4th after the Kovalev fight. That will be a major fight, and we will come back and do our post-fight. Now, the way the format will work is we will do our post-fight show. Our regulars will come on, give us their thoughts, and then we'll open up phone lines, and then we'll discuss. Sal and I will come back after the phones mellow out a little bit, and we will discuss some of the top news in the sport that took place. Now, my goal is to do a post-fight show once a week. We are going to take a couple of weeks off to recharge and get some things in order. But beginning in August, we will be doing a post-fight show once a week, whether there's a big fight or not. We will pick one fight that will become our post-fight, and we will go from there. We also have some other ideas floating around where we may do a show here and there. But that's the way it's going to be. You know, the one thing that we got to maintain is our own interest in this. And a lot of things are pushing me personally away. And, you know, it is what it is. So tomorrow will be our last show. We will be doing a post-fight show on August 4th. I always encourage everyone to drop me an email. But in this particular case, I encourage you to go talk with other boxing fans about this show and about your thoughts about our decision here on social media. I would like to see some stuff on social media. And it is what it is, you know. Sal, what do you want to add to this?
Well, I just want to say that I love the show. I love doing what we do, and I'm looking forward to see our resurgence, if you will, or reinventing ourselves, if you will. And you know, the game of boxing, like I say, I love it. I think you know, we're passionate about it. You're passionate about it, and some of the people that are in charge of the decision making of which direction the game goes is very frustrating. You know, when we recognize that they may not have the fans' best interest at heart, and you know, they do a good sale job, they do a good selling of this, that, and everything else, and you know, what we and you and I are used to seeing and is a different game that we grew up with. And yes, it's evolved, but it's also regressed in a sense. And I'm hoping that what we do in the post fights will keep our fan base and that we will gain additional fan base and we can move on and evolve. And like I said, it's a trial thing that you stated, and we're going to gear it up and gear it down to where we need to be in this contemporary time of fighting. And hopefully it'll all work out. We'll learn, and we'll gauge it for the future to see where we go and the direction that we want to steer the ship, that you want to steer the ship in. So I think anything negative is a positive, and we just have to grow and go with the times. And this is one way of doing it in a consolidated fashion that's going to maximize our efforts for what we do.
You know, in addition to some of the negativity, I mean, I got to be honest when I say that, you know, I'm not crazy about how the sport is. You know, here we have all of these great athletes and the potential of really being one of the best eras the sport has ever seen, and yet the fighters themselves, at least the U.S. fighters, and the promoters and the television networks and some of the powers that be preventing it. They're all preventing it. You know, this move about the Pacquiao being on a new streaming service. I mean, this is a service that hasn't even been out 2 months yet. Is a great example of it. You know, I years ago when we had closed circuit TV, it was a special thing. You know, you had these huge fights were on closed circuit that evolved into pay-per-view. Pay-per-view still had huge fights. Then all of a sudden, greed took over again back then. And then we started seeing only decent fights on pay-per-view. And the rest of the fights that we were subjected to were garbage. Well, that failed. That pay-per-view model failed. There were some other websites that tried to do streaming for a cheap price. Nobody wanted to pay. You know, it's a funny thing. You know, the consumer draws the line. And when they don't want to pay for something, things get revamped. Well, the same thing has to happen here with the streaming stuff. You know, the more people that buy it, the more it's going to stay. And, you know, if they want to just cater to the diehard fan, you see, this is a direct sale. This is why the powers that be can afford to do this, Sal, because they're selling this fight, so to speak, directly from them to the consumer. There's no more distributor, middleman, if you will. You know, the way it used to be, you sell a fight to a network or to a pay-per-view, and then that distributor promotes it. Hey, we're going to have this fight on it, blah, 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 blah. They advertise it, and they get a cut of the money. Well, what's happening now with these direct streaming companies is they're eliminating that. They're charging the consumer directly, and they're saying, hey, we're eliminating what this percentage was, so we're losing X amount of money, but we're gaining this much. So maybe the formulas that they use are showing them that they're going to make more money. What do you think?
I think you're on to something there, Chappie. I think you got, you know, it's true. It's you know, I hate to sound redundant or repetitive of it, but I do see where you're coming from, and it makes a lot of sense when you look at you know, how they are not manipulating, for lack of a better term, but how they're presenting the things that we have to make a decision of following or not on a regular basis. So I think that you make a good point, and as Cy Sims used to say, an educated consumer is our best customer.
I just you know, it's between the constant marination and the ducking of fight. This whole Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder thing, to me, was synonymous to...
Took your heart away. It took my heart away. It did. You know what? Like I said, here it is. And I'm sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to interrupt. But like I said, you're passionate about it. I'm passionate about it. There's no reason that these two combatants could not have gotten into the ring as it was predicted or projected. And there's no reason, like I have said all along, when two fighters truly want to fight each other, nothing's going to stop that from happening. So who does not want to fight the other fighter? I guess we'll never really know. But the bottom line is they should have been in that ring come the end of this year, and but the teasing, the marination, the whole thing is very, very disheartening to the purist, to the fans, to the people that really want to see with competition, with true boxing, with true fighting, with true pounding of the chest and standing for what you're doing in your life and your career is all about. And we're being denied that.
It's deeper. And I'll tell you why. Because a fight of that magnitude, Anthony Joshua against Deontay Wilder, goes deeper than the boxing purist or the boxing diehard fan. Just like, and what I was starting to say, I was just equally as disheartened when Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather didn't happen until it did. What happens is you're chasing away the casual fan, which this sport needs. There's a lot of people that are not diehard NFL football or baseball or basketball fans, but they do tune in at times for playoffs or championship games or rivalry games, and that's something that boxing needs to explore. They are alienating it, and it's a mistake, between an unknowledgeable fan base, between the social media trolls, between all of the things that are happening today. It's very hard to stay into it. I can understand, and I've talked to so many people that would start off, they find out what I do, and next thing you know, they say, I used to be a fan. I used to be a boxing fan, not anymore. And I can see it. And I tried telling them, well, we got some great champions. We got some talented fighters out there today. Try it again. Watch it. Tune in. And then you hear this stuff. They tune in for a couple of fights. They get hooked again. And then the fights they want to see don't materialize. And you made a statement. You always slip it in, just like I always slip in my opinion about we'll never know who didn't want to fight who. Well, here's the thing, all right? The reason why I'm adamant about knowing that it was Wilder who effed up here, because Deontay Wilder does not have other options. That's the key. The key for Anthony Joshua is he does. He says, this is the offer. I'm the guy driving this bus. Until you recognize that, go ahead. Go make your $1.5 million, $2 million fights. Go ahead. Go fight the guys that people are going to criticize you for, because that's what's going to happen. I was announcing fights earlier today that would be potentially good fights for Deontay Wilder. All right? But the fact is, how come we haven't heard anything from Deontay? Anthony Joshua, we heard that not only is he fighting a legitimate, in everybody's ranking, top contender, but he's already got the next date set up. We don't even know when Deontay's going to fight again. We heard rumor that he's fighting Dominic Brazil, but even so, I don't have anything against that fight, but there are definitely better fights for Deontay. Deontay could say he wants the winner of Dillian Whyte and Joseph Parker. That's a good fight for Deontay. Like I said before, he could even go right now to Kubrat Pulev, which Baby Joe Miller, pussied out. Right? He could go fight, Kubrat Pulev in Bulgaria. He could accomplish a couple of things, Sal. He could accomplish the fact that he's fighting a legitimate contender, number one. He could show that he's not afraid to leave the U.S., number two. And number three, he's going to make twice as much money as he can make in the States. So, I'm convinced that Deontay Wilder is not being managed correctly or advised, however you want to define it. And the options are far and few in between for him. And, the longer that he pounds his chest and says he's the best and that AJ's afraid of him and all of this, it's going to go back to, well, you had a $15 million contract in front of you that you didn't sign. They also upped the ante that they'd pay you $5 million to fight anybody else and then fight Anthony Joshua in April. You haven't signed that either. The truth of the matter is put up or shut up, Sal.
Well, if that's the true cards that are being dealt, I think that there should have been more from a proactive standpoint from Deontay Wilder's camp.
Sal, aside from being his fan, could you give me a reason why you always throw in true. It could be. We don't
Well,
know the
no,
truth.
you know what? Because
Like, what's your substance? Give me a reason.
I think you know what? If everything is as it appears to be, that the contracts were issued, and he didn't sign a $15 million contract to fight Anthony Joshua. He didn't sign the other contract offering $5 million. I mean, that's twice as much as he's ever made just to fight somebody in between and fighting Anthony Joshua later. I mean, it's very disheartening to be a Deontay Wilder fan and believing, because being his fan or being one that's frustrated because I don't think he's been advised correctly or properly on a lot of levels. I'm going to say it right here. I think there are very few fighters that can withstand a 12-round fight with Deontay Wilder. And I think I could see him beating many of the people out there that are going to be left for him to fight. But instead of him making a $20 million or a $30 million purse over the next two fights, he's going to be making maybe 5 or 10, and that's it.
Yeah, but I mean, any substance of why you always feel that, oh well, if it's really the truth, you allude to the fact that maybe AJ was the guy who was afraid to fight Deontay or decided not to. And when you're talking about making 10 or actually 12.5 million more than you ever made, I mean, and then for Deontay to have the balls to call it crackhead money for a guy that's never made anywhere near it, it doesn't make any sense, Sal. And I'm being 100% serious. And I just want an intelligent reason of why I should think that Deontay isn't full of beans.
Well, I obviously, the only thing I can say is Deontay feels that this fight, the magnitude of this fight, not taking into consideration what he's fought for as far as the size of person before, but I think Deontay Wilder, in his mind, realizes the magnitude of this fight is worth more than what he's going to be allotted or given. That's the only thing.
Let me ask you this: Does the value continue to go up? Assuming that Anthony Joshua fights Povetkin and wins, and then maybe fights another fight. There's rumor that if Wilder doesn't step up to the plate for April, that AJ would fight the winner of Parker, Dillian Whyte. I mean, he's got Tyson Fury in his back pocket to fight. Even Tony Bellew, possibly another England fight. I mean, the longer this goes on, in the past, a demand may be higher, but the options are so limited for Deontay. Is he ruining his own value by dragging this on?
Good question, Bill. And I'll tell you what, you can only boil the water for so long before it evaporates. I just made that up, but it looks good. I like that.
I agree with me. I agree with me.
Yeah, I like that. You can only get that water hot enough where it boils, and you let it boiling, it's going to evaporate. And like I said, we've been talking about Deontay Wilder and Anthony Joshua for 2 years now, and here it looked like they were going to put ink to paper, and we were going to be fulfilled with one of the greatest heavyweight championship unification bouts in a very, very long time. And to be teased by it and denied it is very, very frustrating for the fan and for you and I to accept on a basis like, hey, guess what? We're going to come back to the pool and drink it again. So you know what? I think the pot has steamed away and boiled the water away. And will there be an interest? Of course, there's going to be an interest. Of course, if both the fighters continue to win. But it's going to be like the Mayweather and like the Pacquiao fight. It was 5 years after the fact. I thought it was anticlimactic, and I didn't think we got the best of what the fan was looking for. Now, if these guys do get back in the ring together before the middle of next year, yeah, it'll be a good fight. Yeah, I guess people will pay for it. I'll pay for it. I'll watch it. But it doesn't leave the good taste in my mouth as if they did it right now. And I don't think it's going to rise above the level of the boiling point as it did for us being so close to getting that fight done. I think now it's only going to be inevitable that it will get done, but we're going to see what happens, how and when and where. And if it has the value, so be it. Okay, we were wrong, Bill, you and I. But if it doesn't, like I said, the enthusiasm, I felt that the bodies and the powers that may be, I think they shot themselves in the foot.
I think that if we want to put the blame on both fighters, if this is a big scam and they're planning this and let it marinate, let's get the fans. Exactly. They're turning fans away.
Shame on them.
Well, they're turning fans away. The initial reaction to even Triple G Canelo is less than it was the first time. It took both trainers to get some mud being slung. And I think that the public can only take so much. And the same group of fans that are kind of pushing me away are the ones that lose interest in 5 minutes anyway. So to cater to that fan base is a huge mistake. I still think that greed is the main problem here. And, Deontay Wilder had an opportunity to take and make more money than he ever did and better his career, even if he lost. If it was a fight, kill or be killed type of a fight, his value would have gone up. People don't understand. When you're a fighter and you reach a plateau for a certain purse, you never make less than that range again. Anthony Joshua will never make less than $20 million for a fight. I don't care if he loses. If he loses, he's still going to make that much. You know why? Because if he doesn't, he won't even fight. Deontay Wilder was in a position to up his general purse, whether he won, lost, or had a draw with Anthony Joshua. He would have quadrupled it, but he chose not to. He chose to hold out and thinks that he's going to get more. And I don't disagree with you about the magnitude of the fight. The magnitude of this fight is huge, but you can only push it so far. He wasn't going to get $20 million. He wasn't going to get $50 million. He wasn't going to get it. He doesn't have the resume. He doesn't have the fan base. He's not bringing enough stuff to the dance. And the only way for him to get enough stuff to bring to the dance is if there were other dance partners. And there's not. There's no other name out there that's going to generate big money for him except for maybe Tyson Fury. So I don't know. This is a big mistake. The silence from him is deafening. It shows me that, honestly, that he basically hopped on the Anthony Joshua publicity train, stole some limelight, got some more fans, which he did, and he jumped off. And now he's going to see what happens. If he wants to focus on 50-0, great. But he's not going to have the respect of the diehard fans, Sal. He's not.
Well, time and opponents are going to tell, and maybe he's going to do what he's got to do for next year or two, and build up that record, and maybe he'll make his 50th fight, Anthony Joshua. That'll be well. Hopefully, they'll both be undefeated at that time.
That's 5 years. Listen,
that's 5 years away.
If Deontay Wilder all of a sudden was fighting 4 times a year, okay, it's going to be 3 years before that happens. Before he gets, and in order for him to get to 50-0, that means he's going to have to fight 10 more bums. All right, and although that the WBC and some of the other sanctioning bodies would oblige for him and hand feed him some more cupcakes, will the demand really be that high? Basically, what you'll end up with is a 50-0 fighter, which would always be scrutinized because of his level of opposition against, assuming AJ is still in the business, against a guy who would have been fighting all the top guys. The 50-0,
it's not going to happen.
It can't, Sal. It can't.
I'm just throwing it out there.
It just makes no sense, though. It makes no sense.
No. And it's true. It makes no sense because, like you said, and like we both said, this fight was going to be signed, sealed, and hopefully delivered. It's not. And when you look at the logistics, I mean, when you look at the possibility that Deontay Wilder could have pocketed $30 million within the next year, I mean, that's hard cry to say. How are you going to get to that right now? And unless he thinks he's gonna stall at 1 or 2 fights, and then by the end of next year he gets $100 million. But I don't know if that's going to happen. There's not enough of a credible, in my opinion, big heavyweights in there in the division that's going to help bolster someone's credibility up that high. That's
the key. That's the key, because Anthony Joshua can go ahead and continue fighting in front of 90,000 people. Oh, yeah. He can continue making $20 million minimum. And Deontay Wilder is going to be stuck fighting at the Barclays Center in front of 1,500, 15,000. I don't even know. Maybe they got 8,000, 10,000. I don't know. They gave tickets away. Nobody even, they don't even know who he is. Who's he going to fight? Who are they going to dig up? Dominic Brazil's one name. He could fight Luis Ortiz again. Okay. Who's he going to fight? Charles Martin? Tyson Fury? Huey Fury? Listen, there's no name out there that could get him to a point where he's all of a sudden becomes worth $50 million. Listen, the best fights for Wilder are the ones I said earlier. He could fight Pulov in Bulgaria. He could target the winner of Joseph Parker, Dillian Whyte. Or if he really wants to show his true colors, go after Manuel Charr and then pound your chest and say you have more than one belt. Because that is more like a Deontay Wilder move, in my opinion. Go after the weakest link and then pound your chest. That's, whatever. But anyway, on this day in boxing history, it feels weird without doing commercials, huh?
I'll tell you, we did this whole thing, boy. We spoke for well over an hour.
Hour and a half to be exact.
Hour and a half to be exact.
But on this day in boxing history, July 9th, in 1970, Carmelo Bossi wins a 15-round decision over Freddie Little to win the World Junior Middleweight title. It took place in Italy. On this day in 2006, Corey Spinks wins a 12-round decision over Roman Karmazin to win the IBF World Junior Middleweight title, and that took place in St. Louis, Missouri. On this day in 1989, Edwin Rosario knocks out Anthony Jones in the 6th round to regain the vacant WBA World Lightweight title. It took place in Atlantic City, New Jersey. On this day in 1995, Tracy Patterson knocks out Ed Hobson in the 2nd round to win the IBF World Junior Lightweight title. It took place in Reno, Nevada. That is. On this day in 1974, Ruben Olivares knocks out Zanuki Utagwa in the 7th round to win the vacant WBA World Featherweight title, and that took place in Inglewood, California. And finally, on this day, July 9th, in 1989, Kakor Galaxy wins a 12-round decision over Sung Kil Moon to regain the WBA World Bantamweight title, and that took place in Bangkok on this day in 1989. Listen, boys and girls, make sure you tune in for tomorrow's show. It will be the last show until August 4th when we do we'll be kicking off our new weekly post-fight shows. So make sure you tune in tomorrow morning. Same bat time, same bat channel. Until then, I'll leave you with this. Ciao, baby.